Hi, everybody. We are about to go live with one of our Virginia candidates, Debra Gardner. She's running for House District 27 in Virginia this year. And we are very excited to have her on today on Instagram Live. We're going to be talking about healthcare, childcare, and lots of other amazing things. All right, candidate, I can see you right there. I'm going to invite you to join. And we are going to get started. We're about to get started here with candidate Debra Gardner. And there she is. Hi there. Hi there, Debra. Can you just move your phone down just a little bit so we can see your beautiful face? Perfect.
Is that better?
That is wonderful. Yes, thank you so much. Welcome. It's so nice to speak with you today.
So nice to speak with you as well.
We're so excited to have you. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things, including childcare. But first, I just want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you're running. And for those of you just joining, we're talking with Virginia House of Delegates candidate Debra Gardner. She's running for House District 27, I think it is. Yeah. So take it away, Debra. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, I'll tell you, I am a proud daughter of the South. I was born to a single mother and raised by her and my grandparents. I was the first person in my family to actually attend college. And for my grandparents kind of taught me at an early age that there was no greater gift than helping and serving other people. And so I've spent the past 30 years of my life working to help people, from working in the education, public sector, public safety. I've spent my career as a social worker. So I think helping people is kind of in my DNA. I'm excited to be running for office here in the 27th District, which is right outside of Richmond, Virginia in Chesterfield County. I've lived here for 30 years, raised my daughter here, and just am continuing to do the work of helping people.
I love that. And I love Richmond. It's a very cool city. So I'm jealous that you get to live down there. Um,
Hot,
so
but cool.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm in DC, so it's a lot, definitely a lot warmer here, or as warm. So Deborah, one of our volunteers was phone banking for you, calling voters a couple weeks ago, and she spoke to a voter who was convinced to vote for you based on your childcare policies. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you would want to see change with childcare in the Commonwealth and what some of your policy goals are?
Sure, I'd love to do that. For the past 7 years, I've kind of been interested in childcare. Being a single mom myself, one of my biggest struggles was trying to find quality childcare for my daughter. And so that's kind of continued on. She's actually 20 now, doesn't need childcare. But for the past 7 years, I've actually worked as a member of the board of directors for Smart Beginnings for Greater Richmond. And what we do is advocate for early childhood education, which includes childcare. We work with the system to try to shore up services for those from 0 to 5 years old, because those are the most formative years. By age 3, children have actually formed, and we know if they're going to be ready or not to enter kindergarten. And so, one of the things that we do is advocate for families to be able to have quality, affordable, accessible childcare. I worked also in my career as the Chief Deputy Director for the Virginia Department of Corrections. And I've actually seen, if we don't put the work in on the front end, we're going to put the work in on the back end. So we advocate for pre-K for all, and I know that's kind of a big step here in Virginia. But my policy is, it's just like eating an elephant. You do a little bit at a time. So what we're advocating for is for 3 and 4-year olds to be able to have full day pre-K, And we have slots in private with private providers as well as public providers. So as if I'm elected, or when I'm elected as a legislator here, one of the things I want to do is try to expand the number of slots, working towards getting universal pre-K.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about how you, as a single mom, know firsthand all of the challenges involved. And I think it really just highlights how important it is to have people with real lived experience in office actually developing these policies. And you know what single moms need because you are a single mom, or we're a single mom.
Yes. And that's also one of the reasons that I'm running as well. I have been boots on the ground in all the positions I've had. And I think it's important that we actually get people who are making the policy, who's actually had to interpret them and implement them with real people. And it's about time we get people like me as practitioners helping to make these policies, because we see how they directly affect the constituents that we're kind of making them for. We also know that a lot of people think that the issue of childcare and women having to leave the workforce because they did not have childcare or did not have like family care, like elder care. We think COVID kind of brought that about. COVID just laid that bare. It was always there. We've always had these issues. The one good thing is that we know now that everybody realized how much it is of a problem that it is, that we can now get some work done on getting it resolved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that COVID seems to have really, like you say, sort of highlighted and laid bare all of the existing inequities, and we're ending up with a lot of women exiting the workforce and potentially not even being able to come back, especially now that a lot of schools are still virtual or partially virtual, and it's really, really difficult. How are you supposed to go to work for a full day if you also need to take care of your kid?
Yeah,
It's
and
just too
you
difficult.
cannot focus if you're worried about, is my child safe? Have I put them in an environment that's going to be conducive to their growth, their continued growth? And also, what a lot of people are not aware is that a lot of the child care providers, especially the in-home daycares, are ran by women as well. So they could not continue to do those things and take care of their families. So we have got to work to make sure that we can get the women back in the workforce, that we can get them quality, accessible, affordable childcare, and then get the childcare vendors back into business, because like you said, some of the schools are still closed. So that means some of the daycares are still closed as well. And so we want to get everybody back to, we don't want to get back to normal. Actually, we want to get back, as Biden says, build back better. We want to do that, especially with our childcare system.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that you have experience with the Department of Corrections, and I'm just wondering, you've seen firsthand how investing up, if we don't invest up front in our kids, then we're eventually going to pay the price later. And so I'm just wondering, in your view, what's the difference in terms of the cost? Because of course, a lot of this legislation will cost money, and your budget is a reflection of your values. And so I'm just wondering about the cost of making childcare affordable early on, and how that can potentially, hopefully, alleviate some of the cost of cleaning up, trying to fix people's lives later. And if you can speak a little bit about that.
Sure. I think we hear a lot about, and especially in the during the last election, about free childcare for everybody, or free pre-K universal. Well, that's really, really good. But sometimes we have to figure out how we're going to pay for these things, and budgets can't always handle that. And that's why I said earlier, I think we need to do that, just like, you hear the kids talk about eating an elephant one bite at a time, that we need to, instead of holding up for universal free everything, we need to start slowly. like I said, with some of the things with like childcare, for instance, um, and pre-K, for instance, like, right now it's pretty much across the board for those who have need. Well, what we need to do is start adding additional slots for those kids who might be a little bit above the poverty line. And so we start adding slots in public daycares and in private daycares and public schools and in the private institutions as well. And you can fund those. So when you start doing a little bit of those things, which are a big impact for families, then you'll look up and you'll figure out, okay, we're almost where we need to be. And we haven't like broken the bank doing that. When I talk about it, and I don't have the current figures about how much it costs to house an inmate, but comparatively, the cost of providing childcare and quality childcare is much cheaper. And some parents at this point here in our area are paying about $10,000. That's a college tuition for childcare. And most working families cannot afford to do that. So I think we need to refocus some of our resources and our creativity on how can we address this issue, and not just say, okay, because we don't have enough money, we don't do anything. We just need to start taking little pieces of it at a time to do that, because $10,000 a year for childcare is just not
That's absurd.
reasonable for most
No.
working families.
I can't imagine making enough money to where that did seem reasonable. Truly. And
Well,
that's
it's
just for
certainly
one
not
kid.
on the minimum wage that we actually have here in Virginia. So I know that's an issue for a lot of families.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, so you talked a little bit about early childhood. So that's like 0 to 5, as you mentioned. And then what about child education, early childhood education, once they're moved sort of beyond the daycare phase? As you can tell, I don't have children, so I don't really know.
Well,
Which is
one of
why
the
I'm
things
grateful
that
that you're
we
running.
one of the things we talk about, like 3 and 4 year olds, that's like pre-kindergarten. So that's where we get them in and we get them ready to get into kindergarten, because the school is K through 3. So that's like K through 12. That's kindergarten through 12th grade. But I think what we do need to start doing as a society is focusing on from the cradle to career, because if we start working early, like these are things, simple things we call RVA basics through our smart beginnings, is that parents can start when their kids are really really small, like reading to them, singing to them. I know people laughed at Joe Biden when he was talking about turn on the record player, since nobody has record players anymore. But the premise was put music on, because they're learning all the time. From birth, they're like little sponges. So if we start putting forth the effort when they are really really young like that, so then they'll be ready for pre-K, and then they'll be ready for kindergarten, and they won't start at a disadvantage. I know here in our area, about 80, I think it's about 80% of our kids enter kindergarten not ready. They don't have the basics for starting to learn how to read. And then we need to think about on the higher end of education, like 12th grade. Not everybody is going to end up in college. So we need to start working on programs where they can have apprenticeships, where they can go to community college, where they can learn a trade. So those are all the things that we need to take into consideration, so we don't end up with them in corrections where we're housing them for these astronomical fees. If we start doing all of these things, like I said, from cradle to career, then we won't have what they call the school to prison pipeline, because it's not from school. It starts actually from the cradle if we don't start with our kids very early.
Yeah. I mean, it starts even before, because when we aren't able to give women, good family leave and prenatal care and all of that,
Prenatal
then,
care.
I mean, then little babies are they're being born, in fact, behind, and that's not fair and actually doesn't serve anybody.
No, it doesn't, because we talk about health care for women, and having that affordable through organizations like Planned Parenthood. It's not all about contraception. It's about the health care that women need to be able to help have their children start off,
Yeah.
like you said, before they're even born, to be healthy and not at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that there is no federal paid family leave. And so then it's just up to the employer. And then that again is often incumbent upon, if women are in low wage jobs, in minimum wage jobs, how likely are they to get, 6 weeks, or what would be more reasonable, 4 months or 6 months of paid time off to be with their newborn?
Yeah, they don't have paid leave. They don't have sick leave in many instances. So they can't even take off to go to appointments, if they are pregnant. And, in our area, and I think this is kind of across the board, maternal mortality is just growing because women are not able to access the health care that they need before and during their pregnancies.
Yeah.
So I know, especially in communities of color, we have a very high, not just infant mortality rate, but the mortality for the women are very high as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The disparities are really, really big. And it's incredibly shameful, honestly, in this day and age.
Yes.
It
You
really
you
is.
would think we were talking about, I'm getting ready to date myself, but I became of age in the 60s, and that's where, that kind of healthcare was not accessible. But here we are in 2001, and it's not affordable or accessible for some women.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're not moving forward as much as we should be, and we need to start refocusing our attention on those issues.
Yeah. I completely, completely agree. Um, okay, so Deborah, I want to, we're going to wrap up a little bit here and move on from our very substantive policy discussions to a little rapid fire, some fun questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is your debate walkout song?
Uh-huh. Well, somebody's got it right on the nail in one of these chats. It's "This Girl Is on Fire."
Yes. I love that. We're gonna have to use that as the soundtrack for this interview.
I love the song.
I love that. Okay, so next question is, you're finally alone. You've won the election. This is November 4th. What does your happy dance look like? You don't
Well,
have to get
and
up.
there's actually one of those. It's a video out there with me doing what that happy dance would be.
Oh
It's
my
actually
God.
the Pharrell song "Happy," and that's one of
Yes.
my favorite songs. So when it comes on, I just can't help but move. So
Yes.
if you see me when that song comes on, that's my happy dance. I can't help but get up
Yes.
and shake around.
I love that. All right, that's what we'll be playing at your rap party. That's amazing. Okay, next question is, the campaign trail is really hard, as we all know. Those of us, this is now our fifth cycle here at Sister District, and we are very well aware that it's really grueling. So, what keeps you going when you're on the campaign trail? Like, do you have special snacks? Do you have your like coconut water? What's your go-to fuel?
Chocolate.
Chocolate,
Anything
yeah.
chocolate. Particularly, I love Hershey bars. So give me a little bolt of chocolate and I can pop back up and be like the Energizer Bunny.
I love that. Yeah, I was canvassing for the primary a month ago, and it was so incredibly hot, and the cicadas flying everywhere. It was just like, I can't. And I'm just a volunteer. I'm not a candidate. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, last question is, what hidden talents do you have that you secretly wish people asked you about?
We kind of laughed about this earlier, and I was like, well, the ones I can talk about, I guess.
Yeah, it's a safe space here, Deborah. You can talk about anything.
Well, no, but I guess it would be gardening. I love working in the dirt. I love getting my hands in the dirt, and I can make plants grow. I'm not like my grandmother. She could turn a weed into a flower. I'm not quite that good, but I'm almost that good.
That's everybody's grandmother was amazing at gardening. So is mine. I love that. I also love that you are very good at making flowers grow and also making children grow. So some nice synergy there.
Exactly, exactly.
I love that. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. So excited to be supporting your campaign. And for those of you watching, you can sign up at sisterdistrict.com to help out with Deborah's campaign. We have links to donate. We still considered early money now in July for sure.
Yes,
And
it's
as
still early.
yes, it's still early money, and those donations help fund all of the work for the rest of the cycle. And we're making phone calls for you. We'll be canvassing, assuming it's still safe to do so. And we're just so thankful that you're running, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you guys for all that you do, and I really appreciate all the help that you've been giving us thus far. And thanks for having me today.
You're so welcome. All right. Take care, Deborah.
Bye bye. Thank you, everybody.